Go. Go.
I think it's a go.
Chu kleko hatwea a ichum saksi tapatsi kleko motuni. Hatwea. I'm Michelle Corfield for Nanaimo Ladysmith. Thank you for having us, and I just welcomed you in our language, and I thank the chiefs of the nations around us for allowing us to come here and gather today. Thank you again.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this incredible Victoria Day that we've arranged for you here. It's my great honor to welcome back to Victoria, Canada's 24th Prime Minister, Mark Carney. A global economic leader who's guided nations through crisis, Mark brings the steady hand that Canada needs right now, at home and on the world stage. From shielding us from Trump's tariffs to cutting the cost of living and leading the clean energy transition, Mark Carney is the man to meet this moment. And here in Victoria, we have a chance to be part of that leadership by electing me and my fellow candidates to be strong voices for Vancouver Island in the next Liberal government. I'm pleased to turn it over now to one of those candidates, one of those strong voices from Cowichan, Malahat, Langford, Blair Herbert.
Thanks, Will, for that kind opening. My name is Blair Herbert. I'm the Liberal candidate for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. Prime Minister Carney is an extraordinary global leader. His groundbreaking tenure as the governor of both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England means he is uniquely positioned to face today's challenges head on. I was inspired to run in this election because the Prime Minister's personal commitment to economic resilience, climate leadership, and global partnership. It is a great honor, and I ask you to join me in welcoming the man we need to meet this moment, Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
Super. Thank you. Thank you very much, Blair. Thank you, Michelle, for the acknowledgement. And thank you, Will. Now, Will, you said this is an incredible Victoria Day. From my experience, this is a typical Victoria Day, which is why I'm always thrilled to come back here, back to the island, back to Victoria. I have family up island, and I know my sister, I believe, is watching. So hello, Brenda, and working for you, yes, Michelle, yes, actually volunteering in Nanaimo. It's great to be here, as I say, to be in the heart of Victoria. To talk about our plan to build BC and to build Canada strong. And we need that plan because we are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. President Trump is attacking Canada, America's closest ally, America's closest partner. Il menace nos entreprises, il menace nos travailleurs, il menace les économies de nos retraités. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. Now, that will never happen. We will get through this crisis if we come together, if we unite our country around a bold plan rooted in shared values. Here in British Columbia and across Canada, I'm asking you to vote with me for positive reasons, regardless of which party you voted for and supported in the past. Because this is the time for serious leadership of a united country. We need to come together so we can fight President Trump together. Because President Trump wants to divide us. It makes his job easier. In BC and across Canada, we need to be united in order to be Canada strong. Nous répondons avec de la force et de la détermination. Nous nous battons contre ces tarifs injustifiés, avec des contre-tarifs qui auront un impact maximal aux États-Unis et un impact minimal ici au Canada. Nous protégeons nos travailleurs et nos entreprises et nous allons utiliser chaque dollar tiré de nos contre-tarifs pour le faire. Par-dessus tout, nous bâtissons un Canada fort. Nous devons comprendre ce que nous pouvons et devons changer. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous pouvons contrôler notre propre destin économique. We can control our economic destiny with the right plan. Because in a crisis, plan beats no plan. And to succeed in a crisis, you need to act with overwhelming force, to overcome the anxieties that people naturally feel, to break through the fog of uncertainty that businesses face, and above all, to replace what the crisis is taking away. As the private sector retreats, government needs to step up to provide positive direction, to drive action, and to catalyze investment. And that's what our plan to build Canada strong will do. Now, in President Trump's trade war, British Columbia is being directly targeted. British Columbians have fought unjustified forestry tariffs before. But now the president is escalating this dispute far beyond anything we've experienced by doubling the duties charged on softwood lumber. Les tarifs visant le bois d'œuvre canadien, comme tous les tarifs mis en place par le président Trump, sont injustes, injustifiés et mal avisés. Nous ne pouvons pas changer le président Trump. Malgré tous les torts infligés, tant aux États-Unis qu'au Canada, il croit agir dans l'intérêt de son pays. Nous devons prendre notre destin en nos mains. Nous avons le pouvoir de le faire. Nous devons voir en grand. We can deal with this crisis best by building our strength here at home. And that starts with recognizing our strengths. Here in BC, that begins with the world-class mining, energy, and forestry industries. It extends to cutting-edge innovation in home building and in clean technologies. It includes easy access to growing Asian economies that want everything that British Columbia and Canada has to offer. Above all, it's BC's greatest strength. It's hardworking, innovative, and ambitious people. Now, this crisis also highlights where we have fallen short and what we need to fix. Nous avons mis trop d'œufs dans le même panier. Nous sommes devenus trop dépendants aux États-Unis. Nous étions une nation de bâtisseurs. Aujourd'hui, nous avons dressé trop d'obstacles pour la réalisation de projets d'intérêt national. Under our plan to build Canada strong, we're drawing on BC's strengths, and we're addressing those gaps to unlock BC's full potential. Our goal isn't merely to survive Trump's tariffs, but to emerge much stronger than before. The first thing we're doing is to reduce the forestry sector's reliance on the United States, while simultaneously tackling the housing crisis. In my first weeks as Prime Minister, recognizing the threats that the President's trade war poses for our forestry industry, we committed to invest $20 million in over 60 projects across BC to boost the competitiveness and resiliency of this sector, and also to invest in innovative, low-carbon technologies. But that's just the beginning. We will create Build Canada Homes, a lean, mission-driven organization that will not just develop new, affordable homes. It will catalyze an entirely new housing industry by investing $10 billion in deeply affordable housing and an additional $25 billion to fund the future of home building. That means prefabricated housing, modular housing, using mass timber construction. That will create hundreds of thousands of high-paying, not just jobs, but careers in the skilled trades and in the forestry sector. And it will massively scale the demand for mass timber innovators here in BC. The second thing we're doing is to invest across the entire energy supply chain to make Canada an energy superpower. That starts with critical metals and minerals, vital components to build everything from solar panels to electric vehicles. The market for these minerals is currently dominated by China and Russia. That must change. And BC can lead that change, given that it's home to 16 different kinds of critical minerals and already has a highly sophisticated, mature mining industry that supports over 35,000 jobs in this province and creates more than $7 billion in economic value every year. But our plan looks to transform that industry and take it to the next level. We'll create the first and the last mile fund that will connect critical mineral extraction projects to our supply chains to get them to market. In other words, from rock to road and rail. Nous allons tirer profit de l'abondance de minéraux critiques que nous avons au Canada, connecter les projets au marché fiable et rentable et créer de bons emplois à chaque maillon de nos chaînes d'approvisionnement. Nous allons bonifier le crédit d'impôt à l'investissement pour la fabrication de technologies propres pour inclure un plus grand nombre de projets et de minéraux critiques et élargir la portée du crédit d'impôt pour l'exploration de minéraux critiques pour inclure les matériaux nécessaires pour les technologies liées à la défense, aux semi-conducteurs, à l'énergie et aux technologies vertes. These measures, all of these measures taken together, will make Canada the global supplier of choice for critical metals and minerals, diversifying our trading partners and increasing our strategic leverage with the United States. We also need to get more clean energy built, and our investment tax credits will promote a generational investment in solar, wind, geothermal, hydrogen, nuclear, carbon capture and storage, and beyond. And they're essential to those nation-building projects we need to make conventional oil and gas in Canada the lowest emission, and therefore the most competitive conventional energy in the world. Thirdly, my government fully recognizes that to build Canada into an energy superpower, we need to get shovels in the ground with an urgency that meets the moment. And to get going, we will immediately create the major federal project office with a clear mandate, issue comprehensive decisions after a single review on projects within 2 years instead of 5, all without compromising our world-leading environmental standards or our constitutional and moral obligations to Indigenous peoples. During my first 9 days as Prime Minister, the Premier and I agreed to eliminate duplicative, burdensome requirements, including by having the federal government recognize provincial assessments for major projects. That's worked well here in BC. So within 6 months of being elected, my government will look to do the same across the country. Nous allons signer des ententes avec tous les premiers ministres et toutes les communautés autochtones qui le veulent pour s'attendre sur le principe un projet, une évaluation et accélérer la réalisation de projets majeurs. Nous développons un corridor commercial et énergétique pour les transports, l'énergie, les minéraux critiques et la connectivité numérique. We are committed to free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous peoples. And to turn that consent into true partnership, we will increase the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion. Now, fourthly, we need to get Canadian resources, goods, energy to markets other than the United States. And BC connects Canada with reliable partners with whom we have free trade agreements in Asia. That means Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, and Singapore. We'll look to deepen those ties, while also exploring a trade partnership with ASEAN countries. Through our $5 billion Trade Diversification Corridors Fund, we will build more trade-enabling infrastructure, including investments in ports, railways, airports, and highways. And finally, but most importantly, we will invest in our workers. Carpenters, electricians, crane operators, welders, and other skilled trades will literally build the future of Canada. And it's time for us to invest in their futures. At the core of our plan is a multi-pronged strategy to support apprenticeships, including the creation of an apprenticeship grant of up to $8,000, thereby removing a key financial barrier for those who want to enter the trades. Nous allons doubler les investissements dans les programmes pour la formation en milieu syndical et accroître la mobilité de notre main-d'œuvre hautement qualifiée. Les travailleurs qualifiés sont les fondations d'une économie forte, les fondations d'un Canada fort. So with our plan, we will build things in this country again. We will build things in BC again. We will grow BC's forestry sector while protecting it from Trump's tariffs. We will end the housing crisis while building an entirely new industry based on BC technology, BC skilled labor, and BC lumber. We'll transform BC's mining sector. We'll build more clean and conventional energy, and we will reduce our reliance on the United States while increasing our ties with reliable trading partners. And all in the process, creating hundreds of thousands of great careers in safe neighborhoods. That's building Canada strong. Now, before I finish, I'll note that when the Conservative Party finally released their platform yesterday, Pierre Poilievre demonstrated once again that he has no plan to stand up to President Trump. He's literally grasping at straws as Canada faces the gravest crisis in our lifetimes. Pierre Poilievre wants to end childcare, dental care, pharmacare, and the CBC. He's surrendering in the fight against climate change. He's offering Canadians a fantasy of fiscal tricks and phantom growth. His bring it home tax cut doesn't arrive until 4 years from now. In other words, after President Trump is due to leave office. Our middle class tax cut kicks in on Canada Day, saving Canadian families an average of $825 a year. Pierre Poilievre's plan literally pockets the $20 billion in tariff revenues we're receiving as we fight President Trump. We will return every single one of those dollars to the workers and businesses that are directly affected by Trump's trade war. Pierre Poilievre ignores the investments we need to build the strongest economy that works for everyone. We will catalyze $500 billion in investment and create a total of up to $20,000 in economic value for every Canadian. You know, unlike Pierre Poilievre, I've managed budgets before. I've managed economies before. I've managed crises before. This is the time for experience, not experiments. In a crisis, you have to prepare for the worst, not hope for the best. Canadians are not, as Pierre Poilievre said, stupid. President Trump isn't, as he said, going to knock it off. The Americans want our land, they want our resources, they want our water, they want our country. We need to fight them. And you can't cut your way out of a crisis. You must lead by catalyzing investment with purpose and with overwhelming force. You don't throw away your best tools when it's time to build. You don't meet the moment with tired ideology when it demands bold action. And above all, you don't divide when people want to come together. Le choix devant nous ne pourrait pas être plus clair. Face à cette crise, allons-nous soumettre aux volontés des Américains ou allons-nous nous tenir debout? Allons-nous couper dans ce dont nous avons besoin ou investir dans notre futur? I know how we can give each other far more than the Americans can ever take away. And I know how, as America retreats from the world, Canada will lead it. This is a critical election. British Columbians could decide who is Canada's Prime Minister on Monday. I'm asking for your support to protect the values that we share and to come through this crisis together. I'm asking for your vote to stand up to Donald Trump. I'm asking for your vote to build a united Canada, to build Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll start with question with national media.
Mr. Carney, Michael Couture, CTV News. Last night, before introducing you, Melanie Joly asked the crowd for a liberal majority government. Why do you feel that a majority mandate is necessary to negotiate with U.S. President Donald Trump?
I think it's important, a couple of things, Michael, that we're in the process as Canadians, I think, is coming together. It's important that we continue to come together and that we have a strong government to face President Trump. You know, the Prime Minister of Canada will be sitting down with the President literally within days, and having a clear mandate will put the country in a better position for those discussions, and also in a way that literally builds this great land for the benefit of everyone.
So, like Ms. Joly, are you asking for a majority government?
I'm asking for a series of single votes from Canadians for a Liberal Party that is determined to build the country if we're given that honor.
Next question.
Bonjour, Raymond Filion de TVA. Est-ce qu'un gouvernement majoritaire placerait un gouvernement minoritaire? Si vous remportez un gouvernement minoritaire, est-ce que ça placerait le Canada dans une situation de faiblesse face à Donald Trump?
Il faut avoir, ce qui est nécessaire, c'est d'avoir un mandat clair, un mandat fort, un gouvernement fort. Et un gouvernement avec un plan qui est clair, qui est audacieux, qui a de l'audace. Il faut être ambitieux pendant une crise. Il faut réagir avec une force écrasante. Et un gouvernement fort peut le faire.
Pourquoi vous ne demandez pas clairement aux Canadiens de vous donner un mandat majoritaire? Pourquoi? Est-ce que c'est parce que vous avez pas, est-ce que c'est parce que vous craignez d'avoir l'air trop confiant?
Il faut gagner la confiance des Canadiens et des Canadiennes. Et chacun de nous, on a seulement un vote. Il n'y a pas une boîte qui dit ça. On choisit les candidats, les meilleurs candidats devant moi, dans l'île de Vancouver, par exemple. Merci.
Next question.
Hello, Brian Platt with Bloomberg.
Hi.
Mr. Carney, you said in your opening remarks that President Trump is attacking Canada, but you also just said whoever wins on Monday will be sitting down with the U.S. president within days. Can you be clear, if you win on Monday, do you intend to go to Washington within days to meet face-to-face with President Trump? And are there any conditions that you would put in order to make that trip?
Well, as you may know, Brian, conversation with the president, we agreed that following the election, the Canadian Prime Minister and he would sit down for these discussions on a broader economic and security partnership. So that's agreed. I made clear that I would spend all my time that I could working to gain the confidence of Canadians, the earlier question. So the conditions are that there is an ambitious and broad-ranging discussion that's going to be had between two sovereign nations. That was made clear in our discussion. It was a constructive discussion. That was agreed, and that stands.
On the point, would that mean going to Washington? Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, the specifics of the logistics. There's very many ways to start, but obviously the nature of the president and the nature of the discussions, they're best advanced with the two sovereign countries coming together and the leaders of those countries coming together and beginning those discussions. Yes. En ce qui concerne, nous avons eu, Monsieur le Président et le Président Trump et moi, nous avons eu une discussion constructive et nous sommes d'accord que le Premier ministre du Canada et puis le Président des États-Unis auront une discussion compréhensive ou une discussion globale en ce qui concerne le partenariat économique et puis sécuritaire entre le Canada et les États-Unis. Et évidemment, c'est mieux de commencer ces discussions face à face.
Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney,
Bonjour.
Sandrine Vieira du journal Le Devoir. Monsieur Carney, il y a 2 motions qui ont été adoptées à l'unanimité à l'Assemblée nationale ce matin. Pour la première, les élus réclament une négociation avec Ottawa pour obtenir plus de pouvoir dans la nomination des juges de la Cour d'appel et de la Cour supérieure. La deuxième motion, Québec demande à ce que la dernière remise sur la taxe carbone fédérale soit versée à l'ensemble des Canadiens, y compris les Québécois. Donc, j'aimerais vous demander de clarifier vos positions sur ces 2 questions-là. En fait, qu'est-ce que vous répondez à Québec?
Premièrement, en ce qui concerne les juges, je commence avec l'importance d'avoir un processus indépendant et des juges indépendants, premièrement. Deuxièmement, il y a déjà en ce qui concerne les juges au haut niveau fédéral, il y a déjà une membre du Québec sur le groupe qui propose les nominations et tous les autres membres de ce comité ou ces comités-là sont des Québécois ou Québécoises. Alors, il y a déjà un processus avec le Québec, le Québec et les Québécois. Et il faut avoir un processus, comme j'ai dit, processus et surtout des juges indépendants. En ce qui concerne la remise sur la taxe carbone, le Québec et la Colombie-Britannique ont choisi un système différent. Okay? Leur système existe encore. Il y a une période de transition en ce qui concerne la taxe carbone pour les consommateurs en dehors du Québec et puis dehors de la Colombie-Britannique. Et ça reste, et d'avoir la dernière remise, c'est une méthode de rendre entier des peuples dans le reste du Canada.
Non vous dites non aux 2 enjeux.
Je viens d'expliquer.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Bill Curry from the Globe and Mail, again on the
Yeah.
carbon tax. You've mentioned during this campaign that you got rid of it because it was too divisive. But you also had a team of cabinet ministers and Liberal MPs who have spent the past few years defending this as a very central policy of the party. So I was wondering if you could just share how those discussions went leading up to that decision. Did any of your colleagues strongly urge you that it should be kept?
Well, this is the benefit of democracy, Bill. If I was clear as during the Liberal leadership campaign that I thought we needed a different approach. We needed a different approach in many respects. The consumer carbon tax was one of them. The way our fiscal approach, we needed to change. Another series of other elements of the economic strategy needed to change. So I brought change, and you see it in a series of measures. I ended up getting the support of 84% of the Liberal Party and the leadership. And important thing in politics is, and certainly people at home expect, is that if you make a clear promise, you deliver on it. And so we delivered on getting rid of the consumer carbon tax on day one. Thank you.
Next question. Next question.
Sorry. You want to do it? Okay.
Sorry.
Good morning. Glenn McGregor, City News. As you know, Pope Francis' funeral is scheduled for Saturday in Rome. Lots of world leaders are going there. President Trump, Zelensky, Emmanuel Macron. Tell me, I understand you have prior commitments. Tell me about the thought process in your decision. It sounds like you're not going, but you're
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll let you finish your question.
Sure.
And just
Please do.
is that okay? No, I'm not. I'm not going to be attending the funeral, given the federal election, and I think the importance of the nature of this election is crucial. Crucial election, and sending the right signal. The Governor General will be representing Canada, so we're represented at the highest level, appropriately so, and we will also have a senior delegation alongside. So. I think it's straightforward. I won't repeat my my testimony to the contributions of Pope Francis, but I'll just refer to them if I may. Yeah, thank you. En ce qui concerne Son Excellence, la gouverneure générale va assister au funérailles du pape dimanche prochain. Et moi, je vais continuer d'être engagé dans ce processus d'élection afin de gagner la confiance des Canadiens et Canadiennes. Monsieur?
Next question.
Alex Ballingal of the Toronto Star. We're here in an NDP riding. You're going to a few NDP ridings today.
Yeah.
You haven't talked much about the NDP. I don't think I've heard you mention them today or since I've been listening to you in the campaign, maybe once or twice. They're saying your plan with the $28 billion of savings could lead to cuts. So how do you convince voters in places like this, progressive voters, that they can trust you with their vote?
I think, Alex, if I may, one of the things that's very important, so there's a few things. The biggest thing in this election is who's going to stand up to President Trump. And is it, we're going to send Pierre Poilievre or me to face President Trump in those negotiations. But then beyond that, what are we committed to? And if you just look at what's come out in the last week in terms of the different platforms. Now, our platform is consistent with what I've been saying for months. Childcare, continuing to support $10 a day childcare. In fact, there's an open letter from the province of Ontario that came out in the last 24 hours. No problem, signed, 2031, absolutely standing behind $10 a day childcare in Ontario and across this country. Dental care, we're supporting that. And we'll continue to do so. In fact, we've enlarged it by another 5 million people. Pharmacare, same thing. Support for public health care, beyond. Support for the environment at the central of our platform. In fact, the last time we were together was for our nature strategy announcement a few weeks ago. All of that there. Support for the CBC and beyond. I could go on. I'll stop there. Everything I mentioned, Pierre Poilievre would either cut or never mentions, doesn't care. That's a pretty big choice. So you can have one option where all of that goes, all of those, to use an NDP term, if I may. Sarah said NDP for the first time in the campaign. Progressive policies. I think of them more as policies and institutions that are at the heart of this country because we care about each other. All of those, the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, does not support. So that's the choice.
Last question before going to locals.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carney. The Conservative leader is proposing to amend the criminal code to give police legal powers to remove individuals from homeless encampments. What do you think of that? And what is your approach to deal with this issue?
Well, I think what starts with our approach starts from attacking one of several aspects of this problem. Okay, first is homelessness, lack of homes, lack of deeply affordable housing, and the need to build deeply affordable housing. We have a huge affordable housing component of our housing platform, $10 billion, working with provinces, working with Indigenous peoples, working across the country to build out deeply affordable housing, which is part of the issue. Second thing, there's nothing of that, to be clear, in the Conservative platform. Lots of pictures of Pierre Poilievre, nothing about affordable housing. Second thing is, unfortunately, and I think we know this, that many cases, not all, but in many cases, homelessness is linked to mental health issues, addiction issues as well. We have, and we outlined this 2 days ago in Prince Edward Island in Charlottetown, our mental health strategy. We have an enormous mental health strategy because there is a mental health crisis, including with Canadian youth, and we're going directly to address it. Mental health, I don't think it appears in the Conservative platform. If it appears, it appears once. I couldn't find it. So it's a typical American-style approach to an issue, which Pierre Poilievre has imported, which is, there's a problem, I will arrest people. I will criminalize it as opposed to address the underlying challenges that are there.
The last line in French, please.
C'est, il y a une politique américaine que M. Poilievre veut adopter, il veut criminaliser un problème fondamental. Et pour nous, on va attaquer les enjeux sous-jacents en ce qui concerne la santé mentale et puis la pénurie de logements abordables.
Let's go over
Sure.
the locals.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Rob Buffum, the CTV locally here.
Great.
Welcome back to Victoria.
Great job you've got, by the way.
Well, we brought out the weather, and you're here for the second time in just over 2 weeks. It's a riding that the NDP have held for 2 decades, and we're in the last few days of this election. What makes you think you can win the riding this time around, and how confident are you that your party can win 1 or 2 seats of the 7 on Vancouver Island?
Well, I think thanks for the question. We're here for several reasons. One is we have amazing candidates, and we're Will's riding, so I will point to Will. I could point to Blair. I'm going to get in trouble. Stephanie, everyone. We're all amazing candidates behind. So that's the first thing. The second is this is a crucial election, and I just really want to underscore that the sun may be shining, but we are in the worst crisis of our lifetime. And having been through crises before, they go through phases and they go through brief periods of calm and then they intensify. And until we sort out our position with the United States, until we take the bold steps, we launch the bold steps that we need to diversify this economy and build this economy, we will not be out of this crisis. So the stakes are enormous here in Victoria, all the way up island and across British Columbia and across Canada. And that's why we're here, is to get that message across.
We'll take one last question.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Bailey Seymour from Victoria News.
Great.
I was curious, ferries on the East Coast receive far more federal subsidies compared to BC ferries. I was curious if you'll be making any commitments in terms of federal support for ferries on both coasts.
The commitments reflect the interlinkages of those provinces on the East Coast. I'm certainly open, and which were more immediately pressing, and then also related to, if I may, Bailey, to the relative the economics of the Confederation Bridge that change as the ownership more fully passes. So you had 2 aspects that come together. Open to working with the province if necessary to ensure that the islands in BC are properly supported. And I'll finish with this, which I would like to underscore my personal respect for the Premier and how pleased I am that we've established very quickly a very productive working relationship on everything from forest to critical metals and minerals to tackling housing and issues around transport. And, that's, I think, indicative of what the country is, what BC needs and what the country needs and what Canadians expect, British Columbians expect, that their governments work together to solve problems, particularly in a crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is what ends today's press conference.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.